Okay, hello, my name is John Price. I'm the Director of a Centre for Low Carbon Futures, which is a collaborative institute between 5 UK universities of Hull, Birmingham, Leeds, Sheffield and York, if I've got them all right. It's a board formed by the Vice-Chancellors of each of the universities. And what we're trying to do is to make more impact from the research from universities. And I guess we're in a very different situation now where we were a few years ago in terms of research for universities, in that the landscape for funding has very much changed. Those of you probably in the audience, either with children at university, will know that the fees have increased dramatically. Those of you who've just left university will probably come with some debts for future years. For universities, we need to very much look at what are the next generation of funds. And I guess in university, which is a bit like a corporate business to some extent, we need to make investments in certain areas to get some degree of competency in specific technologies and sciences and social sciences. Together we've decided to make some investment into low carbon technologies. And over the last 4 or 5 years or so we've been using our own strategic funds and drawing down, hopefully, where we've been successful, significant funds from our research councils and also from UK government and other governments internationally, trying to get our feet around the table into low carbon technologies. So what I wanted to do today was tell you a bit about our journey. I'm not a huge fan of the TRL matrix, to be honest with you, but Jessica was very persuasive on email and I wanted to comply because NPL is such a nice bunch of people. So I'm going to talk about this very briefly and I'm going to show the chart as asked, and I think we're probably around number 7 and hopefully that's fulfilled my commitment to the TRL levels. I think one of the previous speakers did mention it's rather cyclical and we do bounce back and forward between all these different stages. But I'm going to try and talk to our experience and perhaps take you on a little journey with us on one of our areas that we've been successful so far in coming up with a concept and trying to turn that into some form of delivery. Now that case study is going to be very much around energy storage. Some of you in the room may be very familiar with energy storage, some of you may not. But this story is about coming up with a concept for energy storage, which at the end was a success, as a good ending, resulting in a grid-connected pilot plant. And so far, funding totals just specifically around one aspect of energy storage. So this is probably one game in a much larger game. We've managed to achieve some initial funding, which enables us to get going, and that's jointly from RC UK, so Research Councils in Swindon, and also the 50% balance from industry. And this journey then is about how we got to that point and how we can perhaps reflect on some other things we've done in this TRL journey. So, whilst UK universities are said to have a very good track record in innovation, and in all sorts of measures we can do by comparative purposes, we can see that is the case. But we're not so strong, we're not natural entrepreneurs, and we're not so strong at taking technology or science through into production. But if we just take as read that we are good at innovation, we are good at developing technologies, I wanted just to make that assumption and move forward very, very quickly and say that it's not just about the technologies. Even if we have been good at innovation and technology development, it's also very much about the cost reduction, increasing performance, and removing the uncertainties from the vast array of technologies and developing a compelling commercial case. And some of the guys from the private sector on the panel before were very much echoing those elements. Now, in the UK scene has some very key actors in this journey already. I see ETI I mentioned as, a sponsor of this event. The 500 million Low Carbon Networks Fund, Research Councils, Technology Strategy Board, Department of Energy and Climate Change, and many others. And we, as a collaboration of 5 UK universities, try to harness all of our competencies around energy storage and to take that to a step of firstly demonstration, benchmarking, and then hopefully developing commercial projects, because, as I alluded to before, we need to look for new areas of funding, and the opportunities for us to exploit our IP and to take some commercial gain and new funding is of great interest to us going forward. So, very briefly on energy storage, the benefits of energy storage systems are very clear now in the academic and many industries, but not to everybody. That clarity is arguably confined to a few, and of course to many of the enthusiasts within energy storage and renewable energies, no doubt, within the room. Energy storage itself is swamped in a vast array of technologies and surrounded by a pool of uncertainty, and I think it's that uncertainty where maybe NPL can have a role here in some of their measurement activities. There is a lack of understanding of the issues and benefits of storage, and along with market and regulatory conditions that may not recognise the value of storage today. And that could lead to the wrong solutions and perhaps over-reliance on the talk about smart grids. But what's very important is that for the national plans to decarbonise and for those to materialise, as I think as Greg was talking about before, what has become clear is that a substantial increase in the use of electricity to provide heat and transport means energy storage will become essential in our future energy mix. Now, the main challenges are known, but there's still some work to do on when storage is required, be that seconds, minutes or months, and what scale we need it, from micro to bulk, grid or decentralised, and also involving the public in choices about energy technologies is important for them to understand and to enable further development of those technologies, reducing their ignorance and enabling them to influence consumer response. We've seen public reaction. All of you, those that listen to Radio 4 in the morning that aren't working at 9 o'clock, will hear a big outcry around shale gas at the moment. So it's very important, and I think it's very important for governments that we were able to talk about the science much more coherently to the general public. And issues such as lots of lithium-ion batteries in one place will also cause issues. So we need to be able to talk and educate the public a lot better around these activities. So quickly to the opportunities. The ability to store energy is very vital to the UK energy supply mix. So we have a good understanding of these areas, and we've also got some good understanding of the commercials. But with the benefits, challenges and opportunities known, it should be a clear case, and we should be able to go from 7 to 8 to 9 on this TRL. Or we should at least have a good chance of success. But as we know, that's not always the case. Part of the role of our centre, of bringing together the strengths of the universities and our combined resources, which are probably around 25,000 faculty, not all of them working at the same time, clearly, is to try and give some air cover to the research. So we also want people to understand the role of energy storage. It's not just academics, it's also those in government, those in research councils, and those in industry, because otherwise this will not get funded and it could miss out to other opportunities. So part of the things we do is to help with generating good dissemination around the technology. We've done various events here and just up the road at the Royal Society and the Royal Academy, and we've been involved in production of reports. These are an example of some of the reports over the last couple of years, but there are also one's missing off there from notable exception from Goran at Imperial, who was able to talk very much about the economics of energy storage as well. So the real issue is not the technologies. It's very much around the funding, and the funding is very much around the cost, and the cost is the biggest barrier. But it's not the only major issue. There is very much a lack of data to remove uncertainties of energy storage, such as performance data on battery usage and management, durability of the technology, which all fuel investment concerns. Again, maybe areas there for NPL's involvement. Now, we're very much talking about the grid level here for energy storage as opposed to the lithium-ion batteries in your iPhones and iPads that are with you today. And at that grid level, there is currently no clear, compelling commercial case, otherwise with some exceptions, and current pricing favours the use of natural gas. Although that commercial case, over time, is emerging more strongly in favour of energy storage, but that's not there today. And finally, we do know that utilities and power companies are also very slow to adopt these new technologies. So let's look at that cost issue in a little bit more detail and very quickly. So a good example, for example, in lithium-ion, if we're looking at lithium-ion as potential big batteries for energy storage solutions. So, for example, if the wind blows at night on the wind turbines, but we don't use the power during the day, we need to store that energy rather than to dump it. So if you're considering using batteries as a storage medium, a good example of the material costs is illustrated in this slide. So this shows that in the case of a lithium-ion battery, the material cost is circa 50%. However, the history of energy density over time, if you can have such a measure, tells us that we can expect performance improvement, and that will be a major factor in cost reduction. So a lot of the roles of university work is around reducing that cost. or as we would call it, trying to get energy into a box. Now, we can also predict some comfort from solar power learning curve, where the price of PV modules decreased by over 20% every time the cumulative sold volume of PV modules has doubled in the learning factor. So we take some comfort from that. But also we need to look towards government and the research councils to be a key driver in that cost reduction through supporting early stage demonstration. Those of you that like to look at markets and look at graphs, we've got some graphs here that all go up, so going up graphs are always good. These global markets inform us that high growth is expected, as both the economical value and so societal value is also realised. So looking externally, it looks good for energy storage, and perhaps another measure is looking at the markets, the deals actually done in energy storage. It's not all bad news. So whilst the venture capital clean tech markets have been cooling down, certainly in 2012, and this graph is a year old, it's notable that the number of energy storage deals year on year doubled, albeit that at a relatively low scale of a few hundred million. So our approach as a collaborative group of universities is to try and be a little bit more entrepreneurial than the typical research process within universities, which means we have slightly different people in our centre. We have people which are more corporate lab than professorial. Though many of them are in fact professorial who have gone through a transition, and not everyone can do that. We're very interested to exploit the IP from our research, and also to look at international opportunities and make more impact from our research. So we look at energy storage in the context of not just the UK, but also ways of using this in Latin America and Asia, and they're fundamentally different applications. So we're not best placed or organised to be fast response structures to commercial development, so we need to work very closely with industry. We've got a lot of push now from government soundings to make sure our research is more relevant and has more impact. And hopefully we've demonstrated this to some extent with this energy storage, whereas we have about 50% of the funding so far from industry, which is a lot higher typically than many of our other activities in improved breeding of crops, or in carbon capture storage, where a lot more of that is public sector money. But we can do a lot more as universities. Our own, those of you familiar with REF, Research Excellence Framework, has much more measures now, tangible measures for impact, and all of that will contribute to our transition, but it is a big change for universities. But what we can do well is to provide the evidence base to take away some of those uncertainties, provide demonstration and observation. So, in conclusion, the low-carbon energy system will face new challenges in balancing supply and demand across all timescales, be that seconds, minutes or hours. And energy storage, despite being underrepresented in most future scenarios of the UK energy system, energy storage could have a significant role to play. If it doesn't have a significant role to play in the UK, it will have a significant role to play, certainly in Latin American markets going forward. The emerging evidence today shows that decentralised storage options, including heat storage, could offer the most value, but again that's based on today's situation. But there is an urgent need to better understand a wide range of the technical, economic, market, regulatory and social factors impacting energy storage. And back to, I guess, as Jessica's asked me, so to avoid the valley of death, I would be very supportive of anything that NPL could do in measurement to remove some of the uncertainty of taking a technology or a science into production. Thank you very much for listening to me.